Fire Emblem is a series that constantly changes its art style. Fates isn't Three Houses, and Three Houses definitely isn't Engage when it comes to design philosophy, and that cycle has existed since the early days of the series. Which means we've also had our fair share of character redesigns since the early days, some being small art style changes and others complete makeovers from head to toe. I thought it'd be fun to take a look at these and decide which characters have had the biggest glow-ups over the course of the series. Of course, in order to be able to receive a glow-up, you need to have a shaky design in the first place, which means we must roll the clock back about 30 years to when different art styles were the standard and characters looked quite a bit different from how they do now. Take Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light for example. This is how Marth looks in this game. It's probably the most infamous example of old school Fire Emblem designs, and for good reason. The sandals, bare legs, the skirt, this is a look we only really see on female knights in Fates nowadays. At the time though, this was really not that strange, it was simply what anime looked like in the early 90s. 4 years later, when Mystery of the Emblem released, Marth had put some pants on and began to resemble what we would now consider the main look for Fire Emblem lords. Although it's still not full on Marth, I would say. His armor isn't entirely finalized yet, and the shade of blue is a bit too vibrant, making him resemble Seliph more than Marth almost. It wasn't until the early 2000s that we would get the first artwork that truly resembles what Marth would end up becoming. And it wasn't even from a game. The Fire Emblem trading card game of course had to feature the series' first ever lord, and redesigned him, now with the armor and facial structure we've come to know, as well as the shades of blue we still see in his design today. It was this artwork that served as the inspiration behind the design of Marth in Super Smash Bros. Melee, a defining moment in the series' history. A few years later, Shadow Dragon would get a remake, and Marth another redesign. And honestly, not a fan of this one. He looks a little too rugged, too rough. That's not how I see Marth. And perhaps Intelligent Systems agreed because a few years later, when new Mystery of the Emblem came out, they redesigned him to what I would say is the first true instance of the Marth we know today. Small changes would be made here and there of course, depending on every following game's art style, but new Mystery of the Emblem Marth is effectively the same as Emblem Marth. And both are a long way removed from the Marth that would have his second sword exposed every time there's a strong wind. And the same thing also applies to his childhood friend Maric, who should definitely cross his legs when sitting down. But unlike Marth, his Mystery of the Emblem design is already quite similar to what his design is still today, just lacking the extra details and ornaments. That said, I've always found Maric's design to be very awkward in his official art. He's wearing such a weird outfit. His portraits and heroes artwork are much better. He looks a lot better with his hood down. Another character who took a while to truly find their design in my opinion is Minerva. In the NES Shadow Dragon, she has a similar small look as all the other characters, which combined with a purple armor and one of the weirdest wyvern designs ever, don't make for a great combination. Mystery of the Emblem made her armor red, which is at least an improvement, but following this, I feel like her design would remain shaky, even the relatively modern redesign for Shadow Dragon DS feels off somehow. Just like Maric, it wasn't until Heroes, and in Minerva's case also Warriors, that we finally find designs that feel strong and fitting. I also want to give a quick shout out to this art of Minerva, which almost resembles Michaelis more than it does Minerva, with the black color scheme and all. Another Arcania character that has received one hell of a positive makeover is Draug. He went from a shocking haircut with a bizarre color in the original Shadow Dragon to slightly better but still very weird in Mystery of the Emblem to a great heroes art, which is actually based on his design in the Fire Emblem Cypher card game. Nina's glow up came a little earlier, on the DS when Shadow Dragon received its remake. While her original design is very cliché, damsel in distress, blonde princess, her current design is so much more unique and intricate, it's a fantastic improvement. Another very interesting one is Navarre, the Scarlet Sword. Well, nowadays, because while he currently rocks a striking scarlet look, his original outfit was armored and blue, before changing to a grey garb in Mystery of the Emblem. It wasn't until the remakes that his design would reflect his nickname. We slowly begin to turn our eyes towards Valentia and Gaiden now, with two characters that would reappear there following their roles in Arcania. First, I want to look at Camus, or Camus? Not sure how it's pronounced actually. Anyway, his artwork for Mystery of the Emblem might just be one of the worst of all time. What is this design? He doesn't look like some legendary knight, he looks like he should work in the circus. And the mime-esque pose definitely doesn't help either. Fortunately, Camus received a redesign not long after for the trading card game, which is much better, and is already quite similar to what he would end up looking like in Shadow Dragon DS and then Echoes later. The White Wings would also show their faces in Valentia, and while I think Est and Katria have always looked pretty decent, Pala really needed some time to find her style. Based on her design in the original Shadow Dragon, Pala apparently shops at the same place as Marth and Merrick, but what's more important and inconsistent is her hair. In Shadow Dragon it's short, in Mystery of the Emblem it's longer but also aggressively 90s, and in the trading card game it's now full on long, but her outfit is very bright green. A tad too much in my opinion. While the DS remakes didn't give her true artwork, they did give her a very strange portrait with a face that honestly doesn't feel like Pala at all. Her appearance in Awakening puts her in one of the strangest outfits ever, although her face, if you disregard the starry eyes, begins to go into the right direction. And then there's Echoes. And this is just great. Shadows of Valentia has received tons of compliments for its art direction, and that's completely deserved. And I would say Pala is the prime example of that. It has the much needed muted colors, a fitting hairstyle, and a face that combines old school Pala with a modern look. Great redesign all around, no other way to put it. Onto the actual Gaiden cast now, starting with Alm. His original design is awkward to say the least. He looks more like a discount Drog than the main lord of the game. But as we'll see more and more for the next entries, Echoes is there to save the day. Another amazing glow up this, especially the slight green tint given to his armor does a lot to bring his whole design together and help set him apart from all the other lords wearing blue. When we look at Celica, we find she has a pretty mature look the first time around. Oh wait, that's because this is Lufie. Man, this design is just so weird. Have I missed something? Is Lufie supposed to dress like a woman? No problem if it is, by the way, it's just a little surprising is all. Ponytail, the larger chest, the leg out like he's a famous actress on a red carpet. Yeah, Echoes Lufie is definitely a lot better. But we were gonna discuss Celica, so let's get her in here. Honestly, for a first attempt at a female main lord, I don't think this is a terrible attempt. The art style is definitely outdated now, and it makes Celica look more like a warrior than the modest figure she is, but it isn't terrible, all things considered. A design for her that is well and truly awful though is her redesign for Awakening. This looks like a summon from a random gacha game had a child with Pyra from Xenoblade Chronicles. It's so bad, it's insane. Also, it's hard to see in this picture, but why is she barely covering her torso? Easily the worst redesign in Fire Emblem history bar none, I would say. But fortunately, there is always Echoes to save the day. Well, we have so far mostly seen characters who needed some heavy refinement, but nothing to truly shake up the essentials of the character. That is about to change. In the original Gaiden, this is what Claire looks like. It's basically Celica on a Pegasus, it's nothing like what we would end up seeing in Echoes. But weirdly enough, in between there is this artwork from an official art book, which at least removes the Celica resemblance, but is also completely different from what Claire was and would end up becoming. It's a crazy evolution for her, with 3 completely different designs, and not for the first time today would it be Echoes to come out winning. Next, take a look at this artwork from the Deliverance trio from Gaiden. Can you guess who's who? The red hair might give away it's Lucas on the left, although he looks a lot more intimidating than the timid and calm figure he is in Echoes. The blue hair is also a clear tell we're looking at Python on the right, but he definitely has a friendlier vibe about him as well. In the middle is Forsyth, from a time before he traded in his purple motif for a green one. Love the hair in front of his eye, it contrasts so heavily with how we have come to know Forsyth in Echoes, I just had to mention it. On Celica's side of the journey, we also have some interesting changes, with by far the biggest makeovers given to Atlas and Bowie. This is Atlas in Gaiden. Yeah, there's no way you would be able to tell. But let's just say his makeover into the mountain of a man he is in Shadows of Valentia might just be one of the best male redesigns in series history. That said, Bowie also got a tremendous makeover. There is so much more character in this new design, it's not even comparable. The white hair is a great touch, and the different complexion also helps him stand out. And just like the entire Valentia cast really, he too benefits greatly from more muted colors. And while those are probably the biggest glow-ups in Fire Emblem history, I also wanted to take a look at some of the later games in the series. We have already seen some of the Awakening redesigns featured in this video, and not exactly in a positive sense, but they weren't all bad. Roy, for example, received one hell of an upgrade. Although I will say this is probably a tad too cool to be his actual design, it's still a fantastic look regardless. I definitely wouldn't mind it if his modern design took a little more from this. Another great one, but only if you look at the outfit, is Seliph. Yeah, I don't know what went wrong with his face, but his fit is super cool, even if, just like with Roy, it's maybe a tad too much for a regular redesign. Still though, if the reason why we haven't had the Fire Emblem 4 remake yet is because they're struggling to redesign Seliph, I would advise them to take a second look at this art. And finally, a very brief stop in Fodlan for, in my opinion, easily the best redesign from Free Houses to Free Hopes. I have no clue whether this is an unpopular opinion or not, but I really dislike Mercedes' look post time skip. The short hair, the little hat, I'm not a fan. And it seems like Omega Force were in my camp, because in Free Hopes, she no longer wears the hat when the war phase begins, and while her hair is not as long as it previously was, it's also not super short either, making for a much better look in my opinion. Sure, calling this a glow up is maybe a bit much. I guess prevention of a glow down is a better way to put it. But hey, that's just my silly little takes. What are your favorite redesigns in Fire Emblem? Share them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel to stay updated on all my future Fire Emblem content coming up. For now, thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.